With information learned in the previous modules, we're now ready to take a look at the different SPCAF editions and the various SPCAF client flavors that it comes in. So tag along for part 3. The SPCAF tools come in 3 flavors, or editions if you will, and these are the Developer Edition, the Professional Edition, and finally the Server Edition. The first 2 editions, the Developer and Professional Editions, has a subscription model and is licensed per user. These 2 are the most common ones among developers, architects and quality managers in the daily routines of their roles. However, the last one, the Server Edition, is a perpetual license, which means you're allowed to use that software indefinitely and has a license model per machine. This version is extremely beneficial in terms of integrating into your build automation systems like TFS, TeamCity, Visual Studio Online and so on. And by doing this, you can automate the analysis and track the progress through your build definitions. You can also check out url.spcaf.com/editions in order to get a full overview of the editions and their respective features. So let's check out the different SPCAF clients. We have the Standalone client, and that's a standalone desktop application which can be used to run the code analysis on demand from any Windows computer. This doesn't require any special configuration or development tool, just run it as it is. We have the Visual Studio integrated version, and this is integrated into Visual Studio for a full cycle experience as a developer. It enables developers to quickly run analysis on their code, improving the code quality even before checking it in. You've got the Server integration, and this supports ALM scenarios with TeamCity, Jenkins, TFS, Visual Studio Online, and a lot more. It is fully integrated with MSBuild and related build engines, and it's important for automatic and continuous analysis. So this is one of my favorites because then I can have the build server automatically run code analysis and we can get a full report every time someone checks in code, so we can do a comparison later to see if we introduce new errors or if we are improving our code. We have the MSBuild option, which consists of activities to support a range of build configurations both locally and on a build server. We have the PowerShell edition. If you want to integrate SPCAF into your existing processes and routines, or simply want to collect metrics or data from solutions, then using the PowerShell commandlets will be a very good friend. We have the Commandline, and this is really the predecessor to the PowerShell commandlet, and should really only be used if you don't want to use PowerShell for whatever reason. And finally, we have the Results Viewer. And this is a free tool that enables you to view SPCAF reports from any Windows machine. Take, for example, your build server is running SPCAF integrated into your ALM process, but you as a quality manager or project manager, or perhaps the administrator wants to view the quality of the code. You don't need to have the full-blown SPCAF version to do that. Simply get the generated reports from the build server, for example, and then use the Results Viewer to drill down into those reports. If this looks familiar, it's because you've already seen this briefly in the previous modules of this training. With the SPCAF Standalone version, you can analyze solutions, apps, or assemblies directly by dragging and dropping them into the application. You can decide what rules to run, either by narrowing it down to specific predefined rules or by selecting all rules. Or you can even enter the rule editor and specify a new rule and choose what types of analysis should be available on your own rules. You get the ability to review the reports directly in the tool, drill down into the reported data, and finally saving the documented reports in one of the available formats, which is Word, Excel, PDF, CSV, XML, and so on. Along with the SPCAF Standalone client, there is a .config file, which can be customized in order to change how SPCAF behaves. We'll be taking a look at that later on in this training as well. And that brings us to a demo. And with the SPCAF Windows Standalone client, we can just launch SPCAF either from a shortcut or from the Start menu, wherever you have the shortcuts installed. So this will bring up the SPCAF SharePoint Code Analysis tool, and this is what it looks like. Normally what I do is I maximize the window to get the full screen real estate to work with, and then we can see there's an additional bar at the bottom showing up with information for if you need more guidance, if you need to find a specific partner that can help you, or if you want to read the latest news from the SPCAF team, you can see that under the What's New header. And apart from that, we can also see that here's an overview of how to run analysis in your code base. We can watch instructional videos or attend an SPCAF training, which is what you're currently doing. You can get an overview of the benchmark program, how many uploaded results you have and how many more results are needed for the next reward. So by clicking the Show Benchmark page, you would be able to see the benchmark program that we talked about earlier. We can also see the recent results that we've also checked out earlier. And you can see a full overview of the analysis summary. And you can see the number of analysis results, and you can see the average issues per analysis. So this is a basic overview. Also, by clicking Show All Applications, you will get to the same view that you can see in the results comparison view. So from here, you can also access each of the individual results and review them. The main point of this tool is where you see Start Here. And this is where you drag and drop your solutions or apps. Or you click the Add Files button. So if we want to do analysis of something here, we can, for example, take the mycompany.intranet.base content types. And we'll select it. And what will happen here, apart from the things we've already checked out, for example, which types of reports we want to have and so on, we can also configure SPCAF. We can configure which rule set we want to use, but we can also go into the settings editor by clicking Edit the rule set, Enable or Disable analysis checks. And by doing that, you can see that we get a new interface similar to the normal SPCAF tool, except that this is the editor for the settings. We can see in the rules that are currently used, we're not doing analysis for all the additional things that we can do, like CSUM, for example. If we want to analyze client-side object model, if you're doing an app for Office 365 or an app for SharePoint on-prem, for example, and you're using CSUM, then you can analyze that as well. Maybe you want to do the migration assessment. So you can just select these different types in order to get a full coverage of whatever it is that you need. We'll take a look at the settings editor in more details later. So we can just save this specific rule set. We can save it by a custom name. Let's save this to the desktop as My Company Custom Rules. Actually, we also want to change the title of it to say My Company Custom Rules. This way it will be easily recognized from the SPCAF interface. We can see that the settings file changed the title to My Company Custom Rules, and by closing this, we can select from this list our own rules now by clicking Open a Custom Settings file. And we can point to the My Company Custom Rules. And we can see that this is the rule that is going to be used for this analysis. Now we can just hit Start Analysis, and that's it. That's all you need to know to run the SPCAF tool. So it's quite a basic approach to starting out with analysis. And by using the standalone application, you don't have to have SharePoint installed. You don't have to have an environment with Visual Studio. You don't have to have a build environment at hand and so on. You can just simply drag and drop WSP packages, apps, assemblies, whatever, into this tool, and it will automatically analyze it for you and give you the report right here. And that's essentially it. We've already checked out how to drill down into these specific reports from the part 1 of the training. And with that said, this is all you need to get started using the Windows client. Using the SPCAF integration with Visual Studio, you can run code analysis from the Visual Studio interface. So SPCAF is fully integrated into Visual Studio, and as such you can run code quality checks directly from within Visual Studio's context menus. Simply right-click on your project and choose SPCAF SharePoint Code Quality to see the context menu containing everything from code quality for your SharePoint projects. You can choose to generate full reports like the HTML files, doc files, PDF files and so on, or simply click the Run Code Quality Analysis, which will actually display the results inside of the error list. So if you run the code analysis, you will see the results in the error list, and if there's any specific problems you should address, it is going to be a lot easier for you to do that from here than after you've deployed into production. So if you get an error, you can just double-click it, and it will go directly to the problematic area in your code files. And from here you can fix it properly. You may want to configure different rule sets and quality checks depending on your organizational needs, of course, and that's also possible. And this brings us to another demo, and we'll take a look at the Visual Studio integration of SPCAF. Alright, so it's time to check out the Visual Studio integration for SPCAF, and by just launching a project in Visual Studio, either for SharePoint WSP package or a SharePoint app, you will get a fully integrated version of SPCAF from within Visual Studio. In my example here, I'm using Visual Studio 2015, but this also works with the previous versions of Visual Studio. In this sample, it's actually a WSP package. It's a full trust code solution, just to show you how it works. And it contains a layouts folder. You've got some different artifacts like content types, custom actions, fields, web parts, and so on. So there's a bunch of standard stuff from inside of this package, and along with that, a few features. By just right-clicking your project, you can select SPCAF SharePoint Code Analysis and then hit Run Code Quality Analysis. And what's going to happen is it's going to build your project. It is going to execute the SPCAF engine. And the good thing about this is that if it finds an issue when you're inside of Visual Studio, you can simply double-click the error message from within Visual Studio to get to the exact point in your code where it's faulty. So instead of running the standalone client that we've seen before, where you can see what the errors are, you can actually double-click the error message from right here to get to the actual error message as well. When it's done, you can see here the execution for this took about 20 seconds, which is fairly quick because this is a very small sample solution. If you click up your error list, you can see that there's a bunch of messages, and these messages are for best practices and a few suggestions that you could do. There's a lot of warnings, and there's a few errors. So I want to sort this with the errors first, and we can just maximize this a bit here. And we can, for example, see that in the correctness category, we have a problem, and it says deploy missing file underscore layouts and my project name / Contoso search configuration.aspx. And I'm fairly certain that I've already added this into my custom action. So by double clicking this file, we will get to the exact elements.xml file where it is causing a problem. And we can see here that I'm trying to deploy this file here called Contoso search configuration.aspx. But what I can also see here is the file here. Maybe it should be called Contoso search configuration. And that we can easily check by seeing in our project structure, under the layouts, we can see the Contoso search configuration. So this problem is a misspelling. So by going back here and adding the N, saving that file, and if we run analysis again, we should see that the error that we had, it is now fixed. So it's an extremely valuable tool for developers to quickly fix problems before even releasing them or committing them to your source control system. We can also right click and we can do show error help. And this will bring up the SPCAF help file where we can get guidance for this specific error message that I clicked. And in this help file, we can also see that there's, for every single rule that we also have a help file. So you can navigate to any specific rule, and you can also see that there's a help file for it. Another thing that you may want to do is from the SPCAF context menu here, you can create a dependency graph. In this case, I only have one project, which is quite simple, so it wouldn't really make sense now. But if you have multiple projects in your solutions and you have dependencies on third-party libraries and different things, you can run a dependency analysis directly from Visual Studio and get the dependency DGML file in Visual Studio so you can easily see how things belong to one another. Otherwise, you can also run code quality reports directly from here to generate a doc file, PDF, HTML, XML, CSV, and so on. Also, you can do this for metrics, dependencies, and inventory reports. You can also change the rule set from within Visual Studio by clicking the rule set, and you can select one of the existing rule sets, or you can go to Browse and you can select your own rule set. In a previous clip in this training, I created my company custom rules. So I could select this one, hit OK, and next time I run analysis with SPCAF, we can see here that the rule set selected is the My Company custom rules. So you can even use custom rules from within Visual Studio as well. And if you ever require any help with the SPCAF from within Visual Studio, just right-click, select SPCAF SharePoint Code Analysis, and click the Help. This will bring up the full help file for the SharePoint Code Analysis framework. And from here you will find most of the information that you need. This brings us to SPCAF Server. And this is just a very brief overview. There will be a part in this training dedicated to only the Server edition later. For now, What we need to know is that SPCAF Server offers full ALM support, including continuous analysis, and integrated into your ALM routines very easily. And this can be done by, for example, hooking it up to TFS 2010, 2012, 2013, or 2015, or to Visual Studio Online if you're using that, to TeamCity, to Jenkins, or essentially to any other build environment that you have. And this can be done using MSBuild, using the Commandline interface, using PowerShell, and using any of the available continuous integration support tools available. So by hooking this up to your development routines, you can automate the full spectrum of code quality analysis in your projects. And this means that if you have the server license for SPCAF, you can make sure that every time someone checks in code into your source control system, you can automatically analyze your full source code package and make sure that everything looks okay. We're going to check out SPCAF Server a bit more in a later part in this training.